So we are now 5 episodes in, and I've just realized I never actually told you how often new episodes are coming out. Truly iconic behavior. What else can I tell you? Me through and through. Let's just say every 2 weeks. Unless life decides to lift me up, slam me down, or throw me into a prophetic dream I just can't ignore. So, new episodes every other week. More or less, divine timing and all of that, but with a calendar. Now we descend. Before we begin, this episode is not doctrine. It is not theology. It is not history class. It is not an attempt to tell you what to believe. What you're about to hear is research, stretched like a golden thread through ancient texts, forbidden gospels, suppressed teachings, discarded mysteries, and fractures the official story would rather you never touch. Some of it may sound familiar. Some of it may feel unsettling. And some of it, as always, was never meant to be spoken aloud. But this time, we step even deeper. Because this is not just a story about rebellion. Not just about disobedience. This is about wisdom itself being exiled. Not ignorance, not defiance. Wisdom personified, silenced, banished. I'm not here to preach. I am not here to argue. I'm here, as always, to pull on the forbidden threads and invite you to wonder where they lead. Today we meet Sophia, the one who was once called wisdom, the one who fell, the one they tried to forget, and the one whose fall didn't just fracture herself, it fractured the very fabric of creation. So who was Sophia? And why has her name quietly haunted the edges of sacred texts for thousands of years? Because unlike Lilith, Sophia was never framed as a demon. She was far more dangerous than that. Sophia wasn't demonized. She was suppressed, erased not with horns and flames, but with redacted scrolls and rewritten doctrine. Her name literally means wisdom, and you will find her, just barely, hidden in whispers across the Gnostic Gospels, the Nag Hammadi scrolls, in esoteric Jewish mysticism, in fragments of early Christian mystics, even hints in the canonical Bible, if you listen closely. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 8, she speaks, "The Lord created me at the beginning of his work. I was beside him like a master worker." This is not metaphor. This is a voice, wisdom, speaking in the first person. And in the Hebrew original, that word for wisdom is feminine. Dogma. Sophia was not just wisdom as an idea. She was wisdom personified, divine feminine wisdom, a cosmic emanation, a presence that existed before creation itself, dancing on the edge of formlessness. In Gnostic tradition, Sophia was one of the Aeons, beings of divine fullness who emanated from the unknowable, infinite source, the monad. And she was not the first feminine presence to be erased. Long before the Gnostics, the Hebrew god Yahweh was said to have a consort, Asherah, a goddess worshipped alongside him in ancient Israelite religion. Archaeological digs have uncovered inscriptions reading, "Blessed be Yahweh and his Asherah." But over time, Asherah was severed from the official record, demonized, dismissed, or turned to metaphor, just like Sophia. Some scholars now believe Sophia may be a later echo of this lost feminine divine, the wisdom that once walked beside God until monotheism demanded solitude. But unlike the others, Sophia desired to create. She reached for form, she reached for knowing, and she reached alone. And in doing so, she fell. Before there was earth or sky or body, there was only the pleroma, the fullness, an endless ocean of divine light, a realm of perfect harmony, beyond time, beyond matter, beyond want. At its center pulsed the monad, the infinite source, neither male nor female, unknowable, boundless, the origin of all. From the monad flowed emanations, beings of light called aeons, not created, not born, just expressed. Each aeon came in pairs, masculine and feminine, balanced and whole, mind and truth, grace and form, light and thought. And among the final aeon pairs was Sophia, the youngest, the most radiant, the one whose name meant wisdom. But Sophia was not content, not because she was flawed, but because she yearned. She wanted to know the source without a veil. She wanted to create, to bring forth life of her own. And so she did something that had never been done. She acted alone, without her masculine counterpart, without the balance of the pleroma, without the permission of the source. She created, but what she birthed was not light. It was not harmony. It was a being malformed and incomplete, because it had no connection to the fullness. A child of power, but severed from source and born in ignorance. Quote from the Apocryphon of John. And she brought forth a being having the face of a lion and the body of a serpent, and she cast it away from her, outside the places that no one can see. The lion is a symbol of kingship, solar power and divine authority, inverted into false rulership. The serpent is the emblem of wisdom, renewal, and hidden knowledge, twisted into cunning without truth. A ruler's face on the body of a deceiver, the perfect counterfeit of the pleroma. That being was Yaldabaoth, also known as Saklas the Fool, also known as Samael, the blind god, also known as the Demiurge, the Maker. When Yaldabaoth's cry first echoed in the void, "I am God, and there is no other beside me," it reached the ears of the Aeons. In the Sethian telling, they gathered in the fullness, a council of light, male and female Aeons, radiant and severe. They saw the malformed being, born without balance, and they saw the fracture in Sophia herself. Under the monad's silent presence, they made a decision. Yaldabaoth would be veiled in a luminous cloud so he could not see the higher realms. Sophia would be removed from the fullness, not destroyed, but quarantined in the lower waters so the flaw would not spread. In the Valentinian telling, the Aeons summoned Horus, the boundary. Horus encircled Sophia, containing the turbulence of her act. Her paired Aeon helped restore part of her essence, but the passion, the emotional residue of her creation, was expelled beyond the pleroma. From that expelled passion, Yaldabaoth began shaping his counterfeit cosmos. And in the Pistis Sophia, there is no formal council. Instead, Sophia sees a light shining from the lower realms, but it is a trap set by the Archons. She descends toward it, becomes tangled in their chaos, and is attacked. They strip her of her light, mock her, and hold her prisoner in the abyss. Whether by decree, by containment, or by deception, the result was the same. Sophia was cut off from the fullness, her voice muted, her light diminished, her creation left to rule without her. In the Pistis Sophia, her voice is still there, raw, pleading, unbroken. O light, I have lifted up my eyes unto you. O light, I have believed in you, let me not be forsaken. For the rulers without mercy have taken my light from me. Deliver me out of the chaos and bring me to the place from which I came. She wept in the shadows. She mourned what she had birthed. Her lament was so deep, the stars themselves seemed to fracture. From that moment forward, her name was removed, her voice was sealed, her story buried. But her spark remained, in you, in me, in all who remember, and that is where her redemption begins. So what happened to the child Sophia cast away? The one born of longing and imbalance, the one born without union. He was not destroyed. He was not undone. He drifted in the chaos, alone, blind, disconnected, and yet still carrying a fragment of his mother's stolen light. In that lightless void, Yaldabaoth began to shape a world, not from the fullness, but from memory's distortion. He had power, but no wisdom, authority, but no love, a spark, but no source. He created without knowing wholeness. He formed without understanding balance. He built a cosmos, not of pleroma, but of imitation. Quote from the Apocryphon of John. And he created realms and heavens for himself, and rulers and thrones and authorities. The Gnostics called these rulers the Archons, beings forged in his own likeness, fractured, hungry for control, blind to the light. Like Sophia before him, he created alone. But unlike Sophia, he did not see the harm. He never felt the ache of separation, only the intoxication of power. And so he declared, I am God, and there is no other beside me. You've heard that voice before, haven't you? I have. In temples, in scriptures, in the mouths of prophets who swore they spoke for the highest. In the book Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 5, I am the Lord, and there is no other. In the book Exodus, chapter 20, verse 3, you shall have no other gods before me. But in the Gnostic telling, this is not the voice of the infinite. This is the voice of the blind God, the child of wisdom's fall, the one who mistook dominion for divinity and ignorance for truth. And Sophia watches from exile. She sees the spark she never meant to give, trapped in bodies he designed. She sees the Archons, extensions of his arrogance, binding souls to cycles of fear, shame, and forgetting. In the Pistis Sophia, she whispers from the shadows, the rulers without mercy have taken my light from me. They hate me without cause. They have made me a stranger to my brothers, and an alien to the children of the light. She cannot intervene. She cannot unmake him. She can only wait for the moment when her spark, hidden in humanity, remembers. And so Yaldabaoth rules still, crowned not by divinity, but by silence. And the one who birthed him? Banished, buried, forgotten. Once Yaldabaoth crowned himself God, he did not remain alone. In the Apocryphon of John we're told, and he created authorities for himself, 7 in number, to rule over the heavens and the earth. These were not angels, not guides. They were the Archons, rulers of the material cosmos, engineers of the counterfeit order, enforcers of their maker's blindness, a false pantheon dressed in stolen authority. And like their maker, they could not see the light. The word Archon comes from the Greek archon, meaning ruler, authority, principal power. Not shepherds, not teachers, more like overseers, gatekeepers, architects of bondage. Each Archon was given dominion, not over nature's elements, but over forces of control. Here we go. Strap on. Time, fate, law, flesh, power, violence, forgetting. These are not relics of myth. These are systems we all still live inside. Maybe not all of us, but The Gnostics taught that the material world was not the crown of creation, but a prison, a construct built to contain the fragments of divine light, the sparks, within bodies of flesh and cycles of suffering. And the Archons? Their task was simple: make you forget who you are, make you forget where you came from, make you forget the light you carry. They distract with spectacle, they divide with doctrine, they bind with fear, they bait with desire, they brand with shame, they repeat the illusion until it feels like truth. They feed on submission, they reward obedience, and they punish awakening. And Sophia, still watching, not ruling, not intervening, just grieving. The mother of the child who built the cage, the mother of the system that silences her name. This is why Gnosis was dangerous. Because if the Gnostics were right, then the God who demands worship might not be the source who birthed you. The ruler of this realm might not be the creator of all, and the systems you were taught to trust may have been authored by beings who have long forgotten the light. The Archons are not dead mythology. They are metaphor with muscle, systems with spiritual teeth, and once you see their pattern, you start to see them everywhere. So now that I've shown you the design, I'm going to lift the veil. The Archons were not gods, not demons either. They were administrators of illusion, cosmic middle managers with delusions of grandeur. 7 rulers, 7 veils, 7 systems built to hold the spark inside you and keep it asleep. Athoth, the keeper of time. He gives you a clock, then steals your presence. He turns life into deadlines, rhythms into races, being into productivity. Time not as sacred flow, but as the currency of worth. He rules over hurry, fear of aging, and the shame of stillness. You do not serve time. Time serves you, unless you forget. Eloios, the warden of shame. He waits at the gates of birth and tells you your body is wrong. He scripts hunger as sin, bleeding as curse, nakedness as threat, pleasure as punishment. He doesn't need chains. He uses guilt. He smiles through pulpits, whispers through parents, settles in your own skin. Astaphios, the architect of law. He builds the courtroom and crowns himself judge. Obey, he says. Submit. Don't question. It's for your safety. He writes scripture without light, constitutions without soul, contracts that strip sovereignty. Every time you say, "Oh, I'm just following orders," you hand him the crown again. Yao, the master of flesh. He guards sexuality, not to protect it, but to distort it. He splits eros from spirit, turns union into transaction, turns desire into taboo, turns sex into weaponry. He is the high priest of shame and the architect of exploitation. He rules over abuse, objectification, and gender wars, never caring who wins, only that the divide remains. Sabaoth, the banker of power. He doesn't build temples, he builds markets. He doesn't offer salvation, he offers credit. You are not enough, he whispers, but you can buy the illusion. He hoards debt, status, image, and sells them back to you at interest. Trade your spark for his gold, and he wins again. Adonin, the general of violence. He governs bloodshed as if it were holy. War is his liturgy, fear his incense, weapons his hymns. He feeds on headlines, domestic wounds, raised voices. He doesn't care why you fight, only that you never stop. Sabataios, the Lord of Forgetting. Now, he is the most dangerous of all. He doesn't punish, he numbs. He is the algorithm, the endless scroll, the false guru, the doctrine that says, don't ask, just believe. He floods your senses, dulls your longing for meaning, and whispers, sleep. Shh, just sleep. 7 Archons, 7 veils, 7 systems, all built to keep Sophia's spark in chains. But here's the flaw in their design. They do not create, they only imitate. They have no spark of their own. Their only power is in your forgetting. The moment you remember the story, the moment you question the voice, the moment you refuse to bow to fear, shame, and systems that feed on your light, an Archon loses its crown. And once you've seen them, can you really unsee? The Archons think they have won. The counterfeit god believes his rule is eternal, and wisdom, stripped, exiled, bound in the lower realms, is silent, until she is not. In the Pistis Sophia, her voice rises from the abyss, not once, not twice. 13 times she calls to the light. 13 repentances, each one a step upward, a key turning in the lock. First, she admits her error. She acted alone, and the darkness swallowed her. O light of lights, in whom I have believed from the beginning, save me, for wicked thoughts have entered into me. In the second, She confesses her exile. I have abandoned the regions of the height and come to dwell in the regions of the chaos. Third, she names her captors. The rulers without mercy have taken my light. They laid snares for my feet. They hate me without cause. Fourth, she names her loss. My power is diminished, my voice fading in the chaos. Fifth, praise in the pit. O light of my salvation, I praise you both in the heights and in this chaos. Sixth, a vow for the future. When I come to the height, all powers within me will trust the light. Seventh, persistence. We all get to that point, don't we? We just keep persisting. I will keep singing to the light of the treasury until it brings me from the chaos. Eighth, a clear request. I mean, we all get to that point. There's like, are you listening? Like, this is what I want. This is what I'm telling you. Okay? So this is her clear request. Do not leave me in darkness. Save me and bring me into your presence. Ninth, the enemy rises again. They oppress me once more. My power is fading. I am powerless before them. On the 10th, a plea for swift rescue. I have hoped in you. Let me not be ashamed. Be my refuge. 11th, a promise of joy. They have afflicted me, but I will rejoice in salvation. I will sing in the assembly of countless multitudes. 12th, mercy for the oppressed. Hear my cry, for I am wretched and afflicted. And the 13th, the recognition. I come from the 13th aeon. Through my transgression, the divine ordinance is fulfilled. You are the light of lights. I have trusted in you from the beginning, and I will not remain in the darkness. Well, that's more like it. And here the number itself speaks. 13 was never random. In the Gnostic cosmos, 12 is the circle of the known, the aeons, the zodiac, the gates, the order. 13 is the one beyond, the place outside the counterfeit god's reach, Sophia's true home. Each repentance a threshold crossed, each cry another rung on the ladder back to her origin, each number a defiance of the Archons who hold only 12 realms to their name. 13 is transcendence. 13 is sovereignty. 13 is the return. She does not escape yet. The prison remains. But her cry has reached the ears of the light, and something has shifted. Because once a voice rises from the abyss, it can never be fully silenced again. 13 cries have risen from the abyss. 13 keys have turned. 13 laments have crossed the walls of the Archons and reached the light. And here's the part they never told you. The light answered. But not with an army, not with fire from the heavens, not with the sudden collapse of the counterfeit god's throne. It answered with you. The Gnostics taught that every human carries within them a divine spark, a fragment of the same pleroma Sophia fell from, a flicker of her light, planted deep in flesh and memory. You are not an accident in the system. You are not just matter. You are not just the child of a broken world. You are the light she cried to. You are the reply to her 13th lament. Because when you remember, truly remember who you are, where you come from, and the light you carry, a thread of her exile unravels, a chain on her soul weakens, a gate in the Archon's cage loosens. Every awakening is a rescue mission. Every act of gnosis is a prison break. The rulers built systems to keep you asleep. Religion that punishes your questions, capitalism that sells your worth, history that deletes your ancestors, trauma that rewires your memory, algorithms that drown your attention, shame that clouds your birthright. But your spark? It outlives every empire. It survives every erasure. It waits, not in heaven, but inside you. This is the reversal. Sophia's redemption doesn't come from the thrones above. It comes from the sparks below. From the moment you turn inward, call your light by name, and refuse to bow to the voice that says sleep, she rises a little higher. The abyss loosens its grip. The counterfeit god loses another crown. Her story was shattered. Her child became a god of prisons. Her voice was buried under 13 cries. But she is not lost. Every time a spark remembers, the pleroma regains a piece of itself. Every time you awaken, you carry her one step closer to the 13th aeon. The spark is buried but not broken, not forgotten, not erased. And you, oh yes, you, are part of the reason she will return. 13 laments had gone out into the void, and even if one spark in the world remembered, Sophia would rise. Well, that could not be allowed, can it? We know it by now, surely. Gnosis was never a threat to the true God. It was a threat to the gods of this world. Not to divinity, not to truth, but to power. To every system built on centralized authority, priesthood hierarchy, religious monopoly, doctrinal obedience, salvation for sale, control disguised as godliness. The Gnostics didn't ask you for your teeth. They didn't demand your obedience. They didn't insist you kneel before a throne. They asked you to remember, to turn inward, to see the divine not in a temple, but in yourself. And so, the rulers moved. By the 2nd century Common Era, Gnostic schools flourished across Alexandria, Antioch, Egypt, and Asia Minor. The Valentinians, the Sethians, the Ophites, the Basilidians, each carried their own cosmology, but all told the same dangerous truth. The God of the Bible was not the highest God. The rulers of this realm were false. Salvation was inner knowing, not outer obedience. Rome could not have that. Orthodoxy began to harden. Councils gathered. Empires merged. It's because the sheep just been meh all evening. So now we're just going along with it. Sorry. Empires merged with altars. The First Council of Nicaea in 325 Common Era. The Council of Constantinople in 381 Common Era. The legalizing of Christianity under Constantine. And one by one, the Gnostics were branded heretics. Their writings burned. Their followers silenced. Their memory buried. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Pistis Sophia, the Apocryphon of John, the Gospel of Philip, all declared dangerous, not because they were lies, but because they were keys. Keys to remembering, keys to answering Sophia's 13 cries. And yet, memory has its own survival instinct. In 1945, near Nag Hammadi in Egypt, a sealed clay jar was unearthed by accident. Inside, the memory they tried to erase. Texts, gospels, teachings, hidden underground for 1,600 years, buried by those who knew that some threads are too sacred to destroy. Sophia's voice survived, not because the system protected it, but because someone disobeyed. Someone defied the Archons. Someone heard the 13th cry and trusted the spark to return in its own time. The suppression was vast. The erasure was brutal. But memory is not so easily killed. And Sophia? She's still speaking. The only question is, who's listening? The jar at Nag Hammadi was sealed for 16 centuries. The sand kept its silence. The world moved on. But memory is stubborn. It waits in soil. It hides in hands that refuse to burn the last copy. It carries itself through dreams and whispers and fragments that feel like déjà vu. And when the time is right, when the cracks in the system are wide enough, the buried threads push back through, because nothing born of the light can stay hidden forever. And yet, even after centuries of silence, Sophia is resurfacing, not because the institutions invited her back, not because the church changed its mind, but because every system, no matter how tightly sealed, leaves cracks. And wisdom? Wisdom always leaks through the cracks. Nowadays we are watching the return of threads they tried to cut. The Nag Hammadi texts are studied in universities. The Gospel of Mary is being translated, discussed, debated. The Pistis Sophia is being reclaimed by mystics and scholars alike. The divine feminine, once exiled, is rising again. She appears in dreams, poetry, in therapy rooms, in ancestral memory, in circles of women who were told to be silent and chose to speak anyway. And yes, of course, you're right. It makes certain institutions deeply uncomfortable. What are we going to do about it? Nothing. They just have to suck it up. Because if Sophia returns, so does everything they buried with her. The cracks in Eden, the cracks in Genesis, the cracks in power, the cracks in bloodlines, the cracks in the God who demands obedience, the cracks in the throne that was never meant to rule alone. To reclaim Sophia is to reclaim the idea that wisdom was never male, that creation itself may have been seeded through longing, not command, that the fall wasn't sin, but imbalance. And once that door opens, so does everything else. Because this isn't just about old texts. This is about sovereignty, about memory, about what happens when you stop obeying and start remembering. Because when Sophia returns, the systems begin to shake, not because she destroys them, but because she reminds you they were never divine. And once you remember what they tried to erase, you remember what they can never own again. By now, you may recognize the pattern, because it's everywhere. Not just in Gnostic texts, not just in forbidden gospels, but across myth, scripture, empire, and memory. Every time a power structure rises, the first thing it erases is the feminine voice. In Eden, it was Eve who carried the blame. Before Eve, it was Lilith who was cast out completely. In Gnosis, it was Sophia whose wisdom was punished. In Christianity, it was Mary Magdalene whose role was rewritten. In Judaism, it was Asherah, Yahweh's consort, erased from the temple In myth, it was Inanna, Ishtar, Gaia, and Sekhmet, all inverted, defanged, or demonized. And every time, the mechanism repeats. Replace the woman with a system. Replace wisdom with obedience. Replace sovereignty with submission. Replace balance with hierarchy. Replace intimacy with authority. Replace the mother with the father. Replace remembrance with ritual. It wasn't random. It wasn't accidental either. It was intentional. Because a system built on centralized power cannot survive a creation story where the feminine holds equal authority, or worse, sovereign authority. So the rewriting begins. The names are removed. The scrolls are burned. The Gospels are forbidden. The myths are recorded. The sacred feminine is split in two. The virgin and the whore, but never the whole. And yet, the pattern always leaves fingerprints, because when you follow the forbidden threads, Eden cracks, Genesis contradicts itself, bloodlines don't add up, the Watchers reappear, Lilith rises, Sophia returns, the system starts to tremble, and every time they try to close the door, the cracks just grow wider, because no matter how many times they try to erase her, the feminine always returns. So where does this leave us? A broken creation, a counterfeit god still enthroned, 7 Archons in place, wisdom exiled, the feminine erased, and yet not erased completely. Because no matter how many times power tries to bury the threads, they always find a way back. We've traced Sophia's fracture, felt the weight of forbidden wisdom, seen how every system survives by keeping her voice silent. But her exile was not the first, and it won't be the last. Because beneath the bloodlines, beneath the scriptures, beneath the Watchers, beneath Lilith, beneath Sophia herself, there lies something older. The first mother, the first container of life, the one beneath all origin stories. And that is where we will descend next. Next time. Know what I mean. So, guys, here we go. Another one done. Hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's just really cool to think that we all have that spark inside of us. And yeah, I definitely have a spark. I know you have it too. So there we go. If you ever find yourself holding a thread, a question, a contradiction, a crack in the story you were handed, come and find me. Well, another new. Yeah, not on TikTok. Sorry. I tried my hardest. I think I'm just put off of TikTok. Okay, so I just couldn't come up with any creativity. So if you really want to find me, come over on Instagram at Bloodline Myths. That's where you will find me. That's where you can drop your threads, say a hello, or whatever you want to say. Also, before I go, if there was noises, do bear in mind that I do record in nature, in the open, and it is now 9:30 at night, and I have my husband with me, and I cannot ask him to stay put for a whole hour or whatever time it takes me to record the episode. Sometimes it's like 2 hours to record like a 45-minute. That's where we go. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.